junior.
I'm Anya, I'm a senior.
I'm Matthew, I'm a junior.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, good morning. Thank you to the Williamstown Municipal Conservation Committee for inviting us here today. We, the MtGreylock Envirothon team, will be addressing the issue of invasives in Williamstown. We identified trailside invasives as the most notable change in species, and we will be providing a recommendation, including management goals, to address this problem. As a rural town in the Berkshires, Williamstown and its valley are defined by the Taconic, Hoosic, and Green Mountain ranges. Williamstown's abundance of aquatic habitats, including rivers, lakes, ponds, and wetlands, play an integral role in establishing ecosystem edges throughout the area. As a result, the area is characterized by a diversity of species and biotic communities. These habitats range from manicured campus lawns and farm plots to open meadows and deciduous forests. As a college town, Williamstown is home to Williams College. Williams manages a research forest called Hopkins Forest, which is open to the public. Environmental forces, including human activity, are the source of constant change in Williamstown. Native American inhabitation was the first usage of the land, and was followed in the 18th century by the arrival of European colonists. In the 19th and 20th century, like most of Massachusetts, the heavily forested Berkshire County was cleared for agriculture. Since then, suburban residential developments have molded the land, and a reliance on oil for fuel rather than timber has returned forests to the area. This shift from farm to forest has affected invasive species in Williamstown. Today, forest invasives, and those along forest edges, like garlic mustard and honeysuckle, are more prevalent than field invasives like buckthorn. According to Executive Order 13112, invasives are defined as species that are non-native to the ecosystem and whose introduction causes economic or environmental harm or harm to human health. In the last 500 years, which have been characterized by forest regrowth, the introduction and proliferation of honeysuckles, Japanese barberry, multiflora rose, and garlic mustard have become a serious trailside issue in the area, particularly in forested areas. Looking at the map, we are particularly concerned with areas in Williamstown where disturbed land, shown in purple, comes in contact with areas of high ecological integrity, like forests, shown in green, and bodies of water, shown in blue. According to the Massachusetts Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, disturbed areas are heavily affected by human activity, and thus are more likely to become home to invasives. When these areas come in contact with forests, rivers, lakes, wetlands, and other wild areas, the potential of harm of invasives on their environments increases. Thus, we will be focusing on these areas which have a high number of hiking trails in close proximity. Now my teammate Aaron will discuss how invasive species are affecting our natural resources in Williamstown.
Thank you, Anya. I would now like to address the issue of how human activity has contributed to the overall problem of species invasion in Williamstown. Located in an idyllic setting in the Berkshire Hills, Williamstown has long been a destination for hikers, nature lovers, and tourists. Because of this, many of the town's forests have been partially cleared for trails and paths. Cleared forest area can contribute to the destructive spread of invasive species. By destroying the already established, healthy ecosystem, humans open niches by removing native plants, creating opportunities for invasive species to take root. Also, humans accelerate this problem by hiking the trails that they create. Invasive seeds can cling to the clothes of humans who transport them long distances both on and between their hikes. Other ways that humans carry invasive seeds are on boats and cars. Animals can also spread invasives. For example, birds release seeds of invasive plants in their feces, and invasive insects travel in firewood. Invasive species are also impacting our natural resources: soils, water, wildlife, and forestry. For soils, changes in plant cover driven by invasive species decrease soil stability because the non-native plants have poorly developed root systems. This can lead to an increase in erosion, which removes valuable topsoil and thus affects plant growth. This erosion can also affect water by increasing sedimentation, which disrupts native aquatic environments. This sediment can harm plants and animals by carrying toxic chemicals into water, smothering fish eggs and small organisms, and raising water temperature. Aquatic invasives can also crowd out natives and significantly decrease light penetration in surface water bodies. This can create a feedback loop as disrupted ecosystems provide prime areas for invasive species growth. In terms of wildlife, invasive species can outcompete natives, thus disrupting the food chain and potentially remove key food sources from ecosystems. Trophic disruptions can result as the base of the food chain is replaced with less nutritious non-native plants. For forestry, the spread of invasives can lead to the outcompetition of native species. For example, in much of eastern North America, garlic mustard has become the dominant understory species in woodland environments. Garlic mustard and other understory invasives can affect the regeneration of the forest by outcompeting tree saplings. Now Niku will discuss how these invasive species affect our ecosystems and economy.
Thank you, Aaron. The most noticeable change among species happens alongside hiking trails where invasives thrive and conquer. The major species and ecological communities involved in this change include honeysuckle, multiflora rose, Japanese barberry, and garlic mustard in forest ecosystems. There is a noticeable effect from invasives on ecosystem services, biodiversity, human health, and the economy because invasives outcompete natives and have no natural enemies to stop their growth. With ecosystem services, invasives have a weaker and shallower root system than natives, which can increase erosion and alter infiltration. They also may not support pollinators that are dependent on natives, and this impacts reproduction of both natives and pollinators. With biodiversity, invasives outcompete native vegetation, and native animals dependent may be extirpated with the spread of these invasives. Biologist Dan Simberloff of the University of Tennessee quoted, "Introduced species are a greater threat to local biodiversity than pollution, harvest, and disease combined." With human health, invasives invade gardens and farms, affecting agriculture, which is also an integral part of our town's economy. Garlic mustard also releases phytotoxins, which can hurt our sugar maples, which we rely heavily on for maple sugar. They can also hurt trees overall, and the fall foliage is a key attraction for our region, so this could be a problem. This leads to economy. Natives have a cultural value that makes our town unique. If nothing is done to stop invasives, it can reduce the overall appeal of trails, and aesthetic value and popularity can decrease. Tourism can go down, which is a problem because in Williamstown we attract tourists all year round with our captivating outdoors. If nothing is done, invasives will expand and continue to outcompete natives, and this is already happening in our local Hopkins forest, where garlic mustard has spread across the forest floor. If invasives continue to spread in Williamstown, entire ecological communities could be impacted, hurting native wildlife and humans in the region. Now my teammate Matt will tell you our solutions to these problems.
Thank you, Niku. We believe the most effective management technique for our invasive species in our area would be a form of integrated pest management, or IPM. IPM combines different management practices and strategies to treat invasive species. Several key strategies constitute our IPM plan. The main goal of our IPM is to encourage the community to be aware and active in helping to control the invasive species in our area. We feel the best way to remove these invasive plants is to uproot and dry them. We hope to harness the expertise and clout of Williams College professors, the Williamstown Rural Lands Foundation, and the trustees of reservation to educate and encourage the community. Our plan of action consists of 3 main steps. First, we will educate the community and raise awareness. By adding signs at parks, giving open talks at schools, and publishing a free pamphlet of information on invasive species, we hope to engage the community. These pamphlets can encourage people to replace invasives on their property with native species. We hope these pamphlets will teach people how to prevent the spread of invasives in their backyards. Next, we will host community events to help clean up invaded environments. And at these events, we will train volunteers several management practices they can use at their own homes. We hope to engage MtGreylock students looking for volunteer hours, as well as locals interested in protecting the environment. My brother Aaron and I have already helped clear some honeysuckle vine from several at-risk areas with the Williamstown Rural Lands Foundation. However, we need many more pairs of hands to effectively control the species in our area, and we can bring our expertise clearing invasives to help us to develop a strong IPM plan for the future. Lastly, we will encourage many locals to embrace statewide tax incentive programs, and we will ask the town to create local programs. On the state level, the Massachusetts Division of Fish and Wildlife offers several property tax benefits for forest conservation. These benefits offer landowners lower property taxes if their property is in a natural or open condition, thus encouraging the preservation of land. Locally, we hope to develop Williamstown tax breaks for those who treat invasives on their property and plant natives instead in their gardens. Several considerations regarding specific areas of interest are important to keep in mind. Trailside regions with high traffic should receive the most attention because they are most at risk for invasive species. Overall, we feel all of Williamstown should be addressed using different strategies for urban and for rural environments. In urban areas, we will encourage homeowners to cycle native plants in and invasive species out of their home gardens. Whereas in rural environments, we will ask volunteers to pull up and spray plants, and we will talk to people who qualify for tax breaks. This divided approach will allow us to maximize our program and efficiency. From our proposed IPM, the best outcome of management efforts that could reasonably be expected is a dramatic reduction in invasive species in the highly trafficked areas in our region. However, it is not likely we could achieve these levels of success because many invasives are hard to remove due to their deep roots and small seeds. Our primary management goal would therefore be to contain as much as possible these invasive species and to prevent their spread. My teammate Noah will now conclude our presentation.
Thank you, Matt. We can limit the spread of invasives in Williamstown by publishing materials, hosting events, and implementing a tax break program. We plan to partner with two ongoing initiatives. First, the Massachusetts Trustees of Reservation produces a landowner's guide to invasive plant management as part of the Westfield River Watershed Invasive Species Partnership. The goal of the partnership is to promote cooperative efforts to manage invasives at the watershed level through eradication and education. Secondly, the Williamstown Rural Lands Foundation, a local conservation organization, regularly puts on educational programs like one just this April on invasive plant identification and control. These workshops help Williamstown residents identify and help understand the delicate ecology of their surroundings. Both of these initiatives provide information to the public and provide opportunities for citizens to get involved in invasive control efforts. We can expand on these efforts by providing more frequent and more involved workshops and increasing attendance at those workshops. We can also provide more educational materials like the guide already produced by the trustees. In guides like these, we can offer tangible tasks to community members that they can undertake to help combat invasives. We can be at our most effective when we involve the Williamstown community. We can ask them to help clean up trails, or to help by withholding from planting invasives on their property, or uprooting them in favor of local species of plants. There are undoubtedly logical criticisms to our plan. The Williamstown local government may oppose for budgetary reasons, while homeowners may be unwilling to avoid planting certain varieties of invasives on their properties. The town may recommend instead inexpensive community volunteer efforts. Those cheap, these efforts put heavy pressure on volunteer forces and focus on the people already invested and involved in combating invasives. We wouldn't be able to broaden our effort to engage the entire community. We're going to focus on the neighborhood approach. We're going to encourage locals to actively manage their property. We'll bring community organizations like the MtGreylock High School, Williams College, Williamstown Rural Lands Foundation, and others to help manage lands and reach new people. In the MtGreylock State Park bordering Williamstown, there's a region of carefully preserved old-growth forest. It's special and valued to a lot of visitors who visit the park. There's a reason we as humans value things like old-growth forest and seek to preserve what is original and what is unique. In an increasingly globalizing world, not only is it harder to control invasives, but it's harder to maintain a sense of self. As the world becomes more connected, it's ever more important to connect to what makes us unique. Controlling invasives is one way to preserve who we are in the shifting immensity of a globalized world. Thank you. We'd now like to answer any questions you may have.